Okay, let's take a look at the right hand, or your picking hand if you're a left-handed player. Let's take a look at that hand and its role, in particular the thumb, in terms of what I call muting and shadowing. Sometimes I get asked about my right-hand technique when I'm playing single-note lines in a jazz context. And I think one thing that is very different between a jazz player and a classical player, for example, is that jazz players need to improvise. And to that end, they have to have facility from all angles with scales or arpeggios, string crossing, because you're improvising musical ideas as opposed to just working within a set pattern, you know. If we're not just playing a scale that goes in a particular run in the music and we finger it and pluck it the same way every time. We need to address all angles of playing a scale or an arpeggio or a line or whatever. So our right hand basically needs to be ready for anything. So in terms of my posture, my only rule to myself and with my students is that, you know, don't do anything that will cause you excessive tension or strain. So with that, my right hand is placed basically as it would just fall naturally into my guitar. So I'm not doing anything to, stress the nerves in my wrist or my carpal tunnel or anything like that that would cause issues for doing it for a long time. It's just nice and straight. And the way that the right hand falls in the guitar should be kind of more or less at this angle, depending on your guitar and your body shape and the size of your hands and all that. But generally speaking, your thumb is going to be postured or positioned over the low E and A strings, and then your other fingers will be postured and positioned on the D to high E strings. Now, if we're playing a single note passage, one thing that I am very mindful of is muting out the strings with my thumb, and to a certain extent the left hand, the index finger of your left hand, can really serve as kind of a mute and a buffer zone to avoid any extraneous unwanted noise when you're playing single notes. But if we were to take a simple scale, for example, and that would be a single note line that I'm just playing with index and middle, I am, okay? What's happening when I do that, if we were to slow it down and you really pay attention to my thumb, watch what happens when I start playing a scale. So I'm going to start on the low E string. This is just a simple G major scale that's in the tab handout, the PDF. We're going to start off on the low E string. Then as soon as I start plucking the A string, my thumb is right on the low E string. So that allows me to pluck the three notes in the A string without hearing any unwanted E string noise, without hearing this. Have it be kind of sloppy sounding. So you're actually doing two things to mute out any unwanted noise. On one level, the thumb is not pressing down, but just simply resting on the low E string, and that's the muting technique. The other thing that's happening with the left hand is this side of your index finger will work as kind of a natural muter, and it's just lightly resting on the strings. You know, if you need to play a single note, it's there to press down, but as soon as you're off that index finger, it's just there hanging out on the strings and muting, so you don't hear any of this. You won't hear any. And that's what can happen sometimes when people try to maybe adopt a straight classical right-hand technique to jazz, fingerstyle jazz guitar, and they think that they need to decide between a rest stroke or a free stroke or something like that. It doesn't always work that way. From my perspective, I think it's better to just pick the string as you normally would with a pick, but with your fingers. But it's the muting that takes care of everything and allows it to be clean. So again, watch my thumb as I move, as I ascend up through the scale. So we're on the lowest string. Then we move to the A string. The thumb's on. Then we move to the three notes in the D string. Now look what my thumb has done. It just crept up there, and now this part of my thumb is resting on the low two strings now in order to keep those muted and silent. And as I moved up the strings there with that scale pattern, the thumb kind of shadowed it. It's sort of like following along with my right hand fingers, shadowing it. And you know, I can go up and down either direction. I can improvise. It doesn't matter. The thumb is always sort of one string below, muting every respective string below that out. So if you're to focus on my thumb right now, It's always there to just kind of keep it clean and mute it out. And because it's there resting on the strings anyway, you can use that thumb to pluck a note when you need to. And that's something that I do quite a bit. You know, if it's there resting on the string and I need to pluck a note on that string, then I'll go ahead and use the thumb. So it's a great, you kind of get, you know, more bang for your buck that way with a right hand technique. It will simultaneously mute things, and it's there to play a note on the string if you need it to. So again, looking at our example to wrap this up, we're going to take a very simple common 2-octave G major scale in second position, and as we ascend and descend through the scale, your thumb will shadow and mute what the IM fingers are plucking. Here we go.